Welcome to 365 Brothers. I'm your host, Robin Shine. This podcast introduces you to Black men from across the United States, their wisdom, their experiences, their joys. It also shares some of the triumphs after diversity. Basically, this podcast is about the humanity of Black men, just as it could be about the humanity of women, of white, of brown, of yellow. I focus on Black men in this podcast because of the statistics, the facts that Black men are more likely to be stopped by the police without a justifiable cause. Now, if you're questioning that, this podcast is the place for you to be. I ask each man the same 11 questions, and one of them asks about their interactions with law enforcement. The point of that question is to show the commonality in who is stopped, regardless of profession, regardless of age. Now, the other thing is to just share the diversity of experiences of Black men outside of what you see on TV, in movies, outside of the stereotypes and the tropes. This is 365 Brothers. Welcome. Now, if you're wondering, it is a subtle process. So don't just listen to one episode. I recommend listen to 5. When you listen to at least 5, you get it. You will truly get it. And after that, you'll either be hooked or not. But this is a 5-episode minimum, so get ready, get comfy. Today, we're speaking with a community activist and an author. He's the author of Metamorphosis of a Heart. He is born and raised in the LA area, still here with us. We're speaking with Greg Wilson. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Before we get into the questions, Greg, is there anything that you'd like to say to help the listeners get to know you better?
Absolutely. I'm a person that prides myself on being a bridge for the community. And so what I do is basically I dedicated a lot of my life to making sure that people that whether they're friends, family, or people that I just associate with or peers, I just want to be that bridge. I want to help them connect to what they need in life. So I think that's where part of my passion is, that it's really about heart. It's about making sure that we're there for each other and really showing true love to our community.
Fantastic. Excellent. All right. First question. What is a favorite song or movie, either now or all time?
Wow. If You Don't Know Me By Now is a song that I don't know why I play it so much. It's a song that really just resonates to me because I feel that so often, I'll say more so in the past than now, but so often we strive to feel validated or justified or accepted by people. But the reality is I've done that for so long to where I'm like, people don't really know the true me. And I don't know the true me unless I'm being the true me. So I think that song, when I play it, it reminds me to be authentic, be genuine, and be myself at all times. For instance, like I'm even wearing a shirt right now that says, "Be you, they will adjust." It's really about knowing that it's okay to be who we are.
Hey, I love that song too. And it's for the same reasons you just said. Sometimes I just get so deep in it, like, how can we truly be known? Like, and also from the frustration sometimes when it's like, you know me how long? And I always do it this way, and I always do it that way. Right. And you think today is going to be different based on what?
Exactly. That it is. Yes, exactly. That's my song. And I know you just asked for either or, but I have to share my favorite movie. It's a random favorite movie, but it's Last Holiday by Queen Latifah. Well, I mean, Queen Latifah's in it. And when I watch that movie, it reminds me to live each day like it's our last. For anyone that haven't seen the movie, pretty much short, quick moment. She thought she was diagnosed where she had a few months to live. And so she's like, I'm going to do everything I always dreamed about doing. She waited so long in her life to do it. So then she realized that she wasn't going to die afterwards, but she started realizing the importance of living life to the fullest each day. So that's why it's one of my favorite movies. Take nothing for granted and live life to the fullest.
I love that. What about a favorite childhood memory?
Okay, you try to take me there. You try to take me back. Take me back. I like that. My favorite childhood memory has to be with my mom. She was a single parent. Of course I have my real dad in my life, but she was the one that took care of me. So I remember our little adventures, I call it, because as a kid, a parent never showed me her struggle. She always made it an adventure for me. So I remember there was times when we would have to be moving, and she was like, "Hey, we're going on an adventure. We're going on a trip," something like that, to where it was kind of fun. But just the fact that she made sure every moment was something worth remembering, that is my favorite childhood memory. For instance, like if we're moving, or if her car broke down, as an example as well, we'll go on a bus. We'll get out the car, get on the bus to get to our destination, but she'll make it an adventure for us. So it felt like we're taking a trip somewhere.
Give me one of the experiences like that stands out for you.
Ooh, there's so many. Okay. The one that stands out to me the most is I remember when we had somebody break into my mom's car. I know this is really random, right? But I remember it was me, my little stepbrother, and my mom at this time was married. I remember someone broke into her car, and she and my stepdad had to go, pursue the process, whatever the case might be. So I remember she had one of my aunts come over to babysit us, and it felt like a slumber party. She made it seem like a slumber party for us. She's like, yes, we got a slumber party. We'll have a surprise when we get back, because she didn't want us to worry or panic as kids, because we just saw them going back and forth and everything, handling the situation. Now that I'm older and I knew what happened, I think for me, just seeing how much time and imagination she put into making sure that we didn't have to worry and that we were protected, that ultimately stands out the most to me. And I really am very close with my mom now. And now I'm at the point where I try to protect her and make sure she don't have to worry anymore. So yeah, right. I would have to gravitate to that as my favorite childhood memory.
I love that. It reminds me of sometimes you see these shows about childhood, and every now and again you'll see an example of a parent who does that, who goes out of their way to have the child see the world almost like in a magical way.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool.
Exactly.
So now let's talk about accomplishments. Okay. I asked this question in two parts. First, an accomplishment that means the most to you personally, and then an accomplishment that when others hear it, it's the one that gets the oh or wow. So which accomplishment means the most to you personally?
I would say still being here, still being alive, still being able to speak. And I say that, I know it sounds vague at first, but I say that because I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of things, and I'm currently 39 years old, just turned 39. And even in my 20s, I would have never guessed I would have made it to now. And I say some of the things that I've encountered. I've been through homelessness. I've been there, been suicidal. I've been diagnosed with HIV. So it's been almost 16 years now that I've been HIV positive. And the fact that I'm now in a position where I'm living, I'm happy, I'm thriving, I think that is one of the greatest accomplishments, especially for a person that did not have the self-esteem to believe that I could. So I would say personally, that would have to be my greatest accomplishment.
That is a lot. The homelessness, was that as a older teen or younger 20s?
Younger 20s. And a lot of it was, of course, at that age, you think about it, there's so much going on. You're trying to survive. You're trying to figure out life. I was from Lancaster. I was living out there, but I had to come out here to LA. And this long story short is, it was right when I was diagnosed with HIV. So I had to come to LA for a lot of the resources and services that were provided out here, because in Lancaster, they didn't have it the same. But coming out here, I didn't have nowhere to go. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any way to really make it, So I remember at first starting off having to live in my car. Then when that car got repossessed, I had to live in shelters. And when I lived in shelters, I lived in there for like almost a year. So it's like I've been through the homeless process. There's even times when I had to sleep on people's couches or hope that somebody allowed me to stay at their home. I've been through that stuff. And it was really a lot for me emotionally, and for me to really kind of figure out self-love, self-esteem, self-confidence, because in those moments you have to really figure out where to get that power from, where to achieve it from. So that's
and where would you say you did, I'm asking this because I know that at some point in time.
What's up? I'll tell you whatever you want to know.
Well, I just know that at some point there's probably going to be someone who listens to this, who, someone who's heard it may refer it to someone who's going through what you're talking about, or someone who went through that and for whom, they'll be interested in knowing, how did you do it? Because I know how I survived it, but how did you do it? And for those people who have family members that are dealing with this and they're not sure, it would just be insightful for them to understand, what was it that had you get to where you are today, where you're an author and a community activist? I mean, clearly you took those circumstances and something allowed you to go from barely surviving it to now where, I would assert you're thriving.
Thank you for that. I'm, to be totally straight up, I'll have to say faith in God. And I say that because when going through situations, of course, you're enduring it. You feeling like the world is caving in on you. Another thing is, if anyone's homeless, like I honestly will say, I didn't speak up enough. Sometimes when you go through certain things, you feel that the world sees everything you're going through. And that's not always the case. So I think that a lot of times, because I was struggling and because I was fighting so hard every day, I kind of assumed or felt as if people should notice that I needed help, as opposed to me really asking for the help as directly as I needed to in some instances. And so I really feel that, I had to get over my pride, because of course, you don't want anyone to judge you. You don't want to feel embarrassed by anything. But reality is, if you need something, you got to speak to people. You got to let people know. And I think for me to have gotten through, it took for me to really kind of look at my life and say, wait, okay, God loves me as much as he does. So why would he create me just for this circumstance, for this situation? I was like, there's got to be more to this. So while in the situation, my therapy for myself was writing and journaling. And so basically that was my way of getting through, because of course they say the lack of expression is depression. And so I had to start getting it out. I had to express it. I had to get what I'm feeling out on paper so I can move forward with trying to heal from it. As I started doing that, I started getting my confidence up. I started getting my strength, and I started finding ideas like, wait, so if I want to get out of this situation, that means I need to get another job. That means I need to do this and that. I remember having to go on job interviews. I remember going to gas station bathrooms and having to wash my hair and wash myself so I could be presentable when I get into these interviews. I remember doing these things, but I had the strength enough to know that, like, there's got to be more for me than this. And after I started that process, I haven't stopped. It really takes for you to kind of look at, for one, having faith, knowing that there's something greater for you. The reason why we wake up is because we have a purpose, and that purpose has yet to be prevailed. If when that day comes, God will probably call us on home or something like that. So we just got to keep that in mind. So for me, I knew that I wanted more. I knew that I was purposed for more. And I knew that I couldn't just sit in one spot thinking it was going to just come to me. I had to fight for it. And as I fought for it, I have never stopped fighting. And that's what I think got me through.
Okay. I so appreciate you, digging in. There's so many things you said that resonate with other conversations I've been having lately. One about, getting over our pride and to, say out loud when we need help. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm one of those people that's like, I work hard so that I don't have to ask anybody for help. But I'm in my 50s and I'm like, okay, wait a second. So it's not a horrible thing to ask for some help.
That part, exactly. And we'll find ourselves free from the fact that we're not holding that. We hold ourselves bondage sometimes, and we don't realize that we're imprisoning ourselves. And when I mentioned journaling and how important that is sometimes if we don't feel comfortable talking to someone, sometimes that alone gets us to feel more, okay with our situation because we're able to really deal with it. We bring some kind of life to it to where we can then find resolve. My journaling ended up becoming my book. So me journaling and finally going back and reading it and putting it together made it the book that I've shared so I can share my experiences with people.
Yeah, the book is Metamorphosis of a Heart, and I'll make sure there's a link for that. So anyone who's interested, you can just go down to the show notes and check that out. I record these in an extra bedroom, and as I look around, I'm in a room filled with journals because when I was in college, that relationship that just went so horribly wrong. Never mind that I was the one who cheated. Let's not go there. Anyway, that's not the point. I was still hurt.
That part. Yes.
And so I can't believe he didn't take me back. But anyway.
Hey, but there's something greater for you.
And so I started journaling, and I journaled for over 20 years. And I literally have I forgot, I counted them at one point, but it's like 20 something journals. Yeah. And I love that you shared that because it is an overlooked access to being self-aware and to our personal growth and our personal transformation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you.
I agree 200%. Absolutely.
So all we did was talk about the accomplishment that means the most to you. We still got the one that other people tend to say, wow. So what is that?
I would say the book. And I say that because that was a lot of people's first introduction to the transparent me. That was the first time I stopped, like I mentioned, bondage and being imprisoned by ourselves. That was the first time I just said, I want to be freed from all the things that I made myself believe that everyone was holding against me. And that was the first time family, friends, everyone started, when they read it, they started realizing who I really was, how I really thought. And it helped open up conversations. It's so interesting. It helped open up conversations even within my family to where we started having some real conversations. When you go to family get-togethers and everybody like, how you been? Everybody say, oh, I'm fine. Okay, that's good. How's school? School's good. Good. Like, so all the small talk. We started getting to some real conversations. We started saying, so have you ever encountered depression? Have you ever went through, like, we really got the chance to get to know each other beyond the surface. And I think it really helped my family by being able to kind of say, you know what? We didn't know none of this about you until we read this book. So then we looked at each other like, well, what don't I know about you? Because we're supposed to be family. We're bonded together. We're supposed to be the closest. But we share with our friends much more than we share with our own families a lot of times. So I think ultimately it was my freedom. And then and the reason why people find it to be a greatest accomplishment, because it helped them reflect on the things that they have yet to share that they feel is important for others to know as well.
What I hear is that in your being so transparent, it evidences the courage to talk at a deeper level, to share at a deeper level, and it gives other people the awareness that you can do that and then the courage to do that.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Well said. Yep.
Well, then now I want to ask you about words, Mr. Author.
Okay, let's go.
What is your favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book, and why?
One that I remind myself often of. So the quote is, I once complained about not having shoes until I met a man with no feet. And it reminds me about being grateful, because the reality is we complain so often about our life circumstances and situations, but there's other people that have it worse. And so if I'm sitting here complaining about not having a pair of shoes, imagine seeing someone that don't even have feet to put shoes on. You know what I mean? So like that hit me. And that reminds me to be grateful, not to take anything for granted, not to get too big headed thinking that people owe me anything. That's what I live by. That's the quote I live by. And then the quote that I share with others. I'll be totally transparent with you. This came to me in a dream, so I don't know if I seen it, heard it somewhere, or if it's something that came from my mind. But the quote is, "I don't hold grudges because I haven't enough hands."
Mm.
You feel me?
That is good.
Thank you. And that quote to me means the most because if we grabbing hold of all these grudges, how do we grab hold of the things that are really meant for us? We only have two hands. So what are you going to let go of to grab hold of what you really need and what's really for you?
It feels like the first time I've heard that second one, and I absolutely love that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. And look, let me be clear. It is a practice because the majority of titles that I've authored are basically about taking acts of, being in compassionate action. And I have to say, it's all about forgiveness and all that. But, a sister know how to keep it, right? But it's a practice. And it's like, please don't think that they're just some people who don't hold grudges and there are people who do. It's like, no, everybody is very capable. Very capable. There are very few people who are incapable, and I ain't met one, of holding a grudge. But it's a practice because of exactly what that quote that you said implies. Now I'm going to share one of my favorite quotes.
Please do, yes.
On that. Oh, I can't even think of the beginning, but I know the second part. That's like taking poison and hoping the other person dies.
Oh.
That's what a grudge is.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
anyway, can I give you one more?
That's awesome. Did you just have two? Did you not just have two?
You got me going now. You got me hyped.
Okay, go.
Okay, that's one I promise. This one I use every day at work. The energy you put into finding an excuse, you can put into an execution of your plan.
Mic drop. Okay, I'm gonna have to type that up and put that on my wall. My day job, as everyone knows, is an educator. I want to have something that, like a little blind that keeps it hidden until somebody gives me not just one excuse, but the second. I'm just gonna I want to make it where you pull down the little blind and then it goes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, now I'm having way too much fun. No such thing.
I'm talking too much. I'm sorry.
No, we're having too much fun. That's what's happening. Okay. All right. Next. Is there a person, moment, conversation, or event that stands out as either changing the trajectory of your life or had a significant impact on your life?
Yeah. And I would actually say it was my mom has shown me. This is my mom again. I'm sorry, I'm a mama's boy in case y'all didn't know. But I think it was the first time my mom really stood in front of me and looked in my eyes and told me how proud she was of me. She always showed me that she loved me. She always supported me. But I think the first time that she said, I'm really proud of you and I'm proud of the man that you've become. For me, that was me letting down so much weight because I used to feel as if I was never enough. And I would always try to make sure I made her proud, even though she was. But of course, in my own mind and me trying to find my own esteem, I never believed it was enough. So I would have to say that was a signifying moment for me. And it was the first time she looked in my eyes and said, you know what, I'm really proud of you and the man that you've become. And that was after it was right when my book was being written, actually, even before the book came out, she said that to me.
How old were you?
I was 30 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, 30 years old.
Because you said it was before your book was published even. What was it that led to that? Do you recall?
Yeah, I think for the first time this is after dealing with homelessness and overcoming a lot of the life circumstances that a lot of people don't make it through. I think she finally got a chance to look at me as a man. And I think she saw me surviving, paying my own bills, sustaining myself, working hard, maintaining my job, not needing anything from her, even though she's still, moms, they'll always give you something, but not me having to ask. I think for that first time she saw me as a man and said, wow, like you're grown up, like you are doing a great job being independent and being the man. And that was what made her proud of me. She's just told me, like, if I don't tell you enough, you need to know that I'm really proud of you.
That's
I think
great.
Yes.
I did this event. I don't know if you've heard of Lisa Nichols or not, but she does these different events. And she has this one exercise at the end of her weekend that she's already gotten you to go through a process of discovering what's the thing you wish your parent had said to you that they never said. Yes. And then once you identify what that is, you walk around the room saying it, whispering it into the ears of all the other half of the room that has their eyes closed. Wow. So you're continuing to repeat that thing that you never heard to others. And then when it's the other half and your eyes are closed, you're hearing all the things that other people didn't get to hear. And I will tell you from that experience, the thing I heard the most is exactly what you just said. It surprised me to hear so many people whisper in my ear, I'm proud of you, as a symbol of what they didn't get to hear. So I can't wait to include this for any parents who hear it, because quite frankly, in our community, and I know that's an overgeneralization, but I know there's been such a need for tough love due to the history of trying to survive in this country, that saying I'm proud of you is not as common as it could be.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, because that exercise sounds incredible. And I want to, when I'm teaching leadership development, I think that'll be another point to touch on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she does a beautiful job. Like there's some lead up so that everybody is in that, that space, like the lights are dimmed, and, she puts in some work to get everybody to the place where it's not, you know what I mean? Where they're really feeling it. And it's really powerful. So what is a moment or event that either highlights or signifies in some way your experience as a Black man in the United States?
I work in public health. I've been doing it for about 15 years or so. I used to be on a commission on HIV for LA County, Los Angeles County. And I walk in this room and it'll be all these white people trying to tell us how to spend money for Black people. I think for me was having to sit down and hear people speak the way they would speak about Black men, as if like they, and I don't know, it just felt really racist. That's the only way I can think of it. I felt like I was in a racist environment, and I felt like I had to finally stand up and speak up and remind them, like, listen, I was like, regardless of what these labels say on the tables, I'm a Black man first. And I was like, so you're going to respect me. And I felt like for me, something that really stood out for me as a Black man was the fact that, most of our life, people think that they can come in and make decisions for us, whether that's government, police, whoever. And we're supposed to just stand by and let it be and subdue ourselves to it and deal with it. But no, at this point in time, I recognize that if I'm one of the only Black men in this room, I need to stand up for us. I have to represent us. And I think that the power of knowing that we are that, and this is my opinion, but I think it's proven. The fact that of knowing that being Black is something that people strive and want and try for, I think that alone is the power that we have. And I think really exerting that power and showing that power and living in it is what stands out for me as a Black man, being able to do that and knowing that people are watching at all times. So the pressure of having to do things on an elevated level, but then also the power of being able to be Black and stand firm in that.
Let me ask you about law enforcement. Have you had any interactions with law enforcement? If so, what or when, or what can you share about your experiences there?
I would have to say I'm fortunate. The most I've had to deal with law enforcement is like being pulled over because I'm Black. But I mean, most times they act like they will pull you over for something. They give you a warning, quote unquote warning, so you can leave without a ticket. That's all that I really endured pertaining to law enforcement. But I've seen most of the people that I'm around, my friends, my brothers, I've seen all of them have crazy encounters to where it kind of kept me cautious. And I honestly will say that it instilled a little bit of uncertainty and fear at times, because I still, when I see a police car behind me, no matter how everything is already together, I still get a little nervous. I get a little anxious. And I don't think it's fair, but it's something that we have to be cognizant of, because we never know when that wrong officer is going to be behind the wheel and that wrong officer gets behind your car. So I haven't had to endure a lot in regards to that, but me having to see it, it makes me really empathetic to the fact that, it's really happening to us, and it's always been that, and I don't see it changing anytime soon.
And I appreciate you saying the wrong officer, because, you're not the first guest to point out that this is not about all police officers are horrible, racist individuals that cannot be trusted under any means. Just like any profession. I mean, I can name some teachers that, man, I was so glad when they retired, because I was like, how has no one gotten rid of this teacher? Like, just real talk, just speaking straight. Yes. And so, I know that, whether you're an insurance salesman and you got someone in your group that's unscrupulous, that there's that in every profession. So we don't want to act like it's just one profession that has bad apples. The only difference is that is the one profession where you are given a gun.
That's the part. And yeah, seriously. And most times if you do something with it, so people are going to find a way to pass you through. People get away with it. People literally get away with murder. I was going to say it as a phrase, but it's reality at this point.
One last question before we move on, though. You did mention that, there have been times that, that you've been stopped when, and given a warning when it was something, like really they shouldn't have stopped you kind of thing. Do you have an example of that you can share?
I do. I live in LA. So of course, if you're passing through any area and you're Black and you have a decent kind of car, they're going to pull you over. That's just what my reality has been. And a lot of times they just kind of want to gauge if, for one, how you get this car. Is it your car? So they want to always ask for that insurance or registration to make sure it's yours. Because they're like, how do you get this? Why are you in this car? You're Black. You're not supposed to have this. That's what their mindset a lot of times can be. And so I would say that anytime I'm driving in South LA, I literally get police cars. They'll stay behind you for a little while so they can look up your license plate. Then you'll see them drive around you. I can't count on my hand how many times it happens a week if I'm driving through that area. In regards to being stopped, and there was one time when I had one of my cousins and my little brother in the car with me. And we were driving, and we were actually going through downtown area. And because it was more than one Black person in the car, they automatically pull us over. And then they was like, yeah, well, the thing that gets me, the first thing that they always use is like, we're looking for a suspect and you fit some of the description. We want to just kind of gauge. And I'm like, well, what is it? What was the suspect doing? I can't give you that information. Oh, but you need my information. You can't give me information, but you need mine. And so that was the first thing they do, ask for license registration. They ask if there's any drugs or guns in the car. Of course, I'm like, no, there's not. And then at that point, they go to their car, look it up, see that nothing's wrong with my license or my background, nothing. Then they come back to like, okay, yeah, well, you need to be careful out here. What did I do? I am being careful. Y'all stop me. But so it's little things like that. That's the one time I was stopped that kind of really just, I think it aggravated me only because I didn't want my little brother and my cousin to have to see something like that. I can roll it off my back, but I don't want anyone else to have to endure that type of oppression or trauma.
Right. I'm sorry, you kind of got me giggling over here. Be careful out here. It's like, you are my problem. You're right. The one I'm worried about.
Be careful of you. Exactly.
And you went and pulled me over and I was trying to be careful.
Trying to get home, You stopping me.
Right.
What's going on?
So now I'll ask you.
Okay.
Greg, if the United States was a woman with whom you could speak, whether mother, lover, child, stranger, neighbor, friend, whatever, what would you say to her?
First thing I would say is that I stand with you and I have your back. And I would start there because I feel that, and of course we said a woman, I hope you said Black woman because that's in my mind is a Black woman.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll say that because I think Black women don't hear it often enough, especially from men and especially from gay men. I think that they need to know that, you don't have to fight this world alone. We got your back. if we have this extra strength that we can hold you up with, I'm going to hold you up. I will be here to make sure that you don't have to endure a lot of the things that we know is going on in this world. I think women are automatically, which I definitely disagree with, women are automatically categorized as weaker or as if somebody that needs to be told what to do or some other stuff. And I think women are the most powerful and most beautiful people in this earth. And that's the reason why that's the first thing I would say, is that I stand with you and I got your back. So that way, no matter what you decide to do with this world, Miss President, Madam President, or however they say it, I got you. That's what I would say first.
And then
I'll say, so what can we do to get me a job with you? I need to be on payroll. I want to help me out, cook me up. And then, because I would want to because I want to be in position to really make impact and help. I want to be a part of this history, this legacy, and I want to make sure that I can insert the things that I may know that she may not have perspective on, and I want to be able to provide and help fill in those gaps. You know?
Yeah. I hear basically you want to be of service.
Absolutely, completely. Yep.
What is love to you?
Love. Wow. Though I'm looking for it, I would say single. I don't know what, but I'll say love for me is something that I don't see often because I truly believe that it is unconditional. And I say that I don't see it often because most people put conditions on their love. And I want to be able to kind of say that through my friendships and through the way I now interact with family, I didn't always do it this way, but I feel that the fact that flaws and all, good and bad, like I will love you through it all, that to me is love. Knowing that someone doesn't have to live up to a falsified expectation to please you, to appease you, so you can love them. I don't think that's love at all. I do know that love is an action word. It's not something that should be used as freely as the word friend. I don't call everybody my friend. I don't tell everyone I love them unless I truly do, because there's supposed to be value and weight with the word. And so I don't think that it's something that should be taken as lightly as it is. I do believe that it is something that is harder to attain than people believe. And I say that because if it's real love, something that's going to be everlasting and unbroken, I think that is something that has to be worked up towards. I don't think it's something that you just give freely. So love to me is one of the most powerful words because I feel like it's the root, the essence, and foundation of most healthy and positive things. And I do believe that, it's not something that everyone has access to in the degree that they think they do. Does that make sense?
Well, say more about that. When you say that they don't have access to the degree that they think they do, what do you mean?
What I mean by that is we can't expect someone to love us if we don't love ourselves. That's where I'll start. And I say that because a lot of times, because we don't know how to love ourselves, we want someone else to love us to give us an example of what that's supposed to feel like. So we think we have access to love because someone is showing us something that we're not showing ourselves. And for that reason, I feel that we think we have access to this love word or this love thing, when the reality is, how do we even determine if we've had access if we don't know what it is based on the fact that we can't give it to ourselves? So that's what I meant by that. So I'm saying it goes back to internal things that we talked about earlier, like how do you start with self? How do you build self up? How do you start looking within to then start looking without, or looking outward, not without, but outward. And so when it comes to that word and comes to that thing, I feel people will just want to feel something. So they equate it to love when it might be just somebody paying you attention. Or they might equate it to love when somebody just saying, hey, I called you because I have no one else to call, but you thinking that they call you because they love you, they thinking about you. So it's really all in how we love ourselves and determine how we receive it from others and what our standard of love would become.
I like what you're pointing to. It's that, or at least how I'm hearing it. We can talk about giving love. We can talk about receiving love. We can talk about experiencing love. And I could put all three of those on, like if I were doing some math, and between each of those would be an equal sign in terms of capacity, our capacity to give love, our capacity to receive love, and our capacity to actually experience that exchange of love. They're equal. And if you're deficient in one, and actually I'll put one more equal sign. love of self. That
yeah.
I love your reaction. I think we're done.
Yes, you got that. Yes. Yes, you hit every point. That's perfect. Yes.
Now I'll ask you this.
Uh-huh.
What is something that you've learned either through your profession, training, experiences, or adventures that you believe more Black men should know, but don't, knowing that whatever you say benefits everybody?
Wow. First thing I would say, especially as it pertains to Black men, it's okay to show and tell another Black man that you love them. And I say that in community. I say that with fathers. I say that with brothers. I say that with just peers, friends, etc. Because I think that yes, most times we gravitate to or expect to hear it from our mothers or from female figures in our life. But when it comes to male figures, I don't know what you call it. I think there's so much dissension, there's so much separation, distance, there's so much friction and issues when it pertains to relationships with Black men. And I say that because, a lot of us haven't had our fathers in our lives. A lot of us may not have been fathers if we have kids. A lot of us may not have heard "I love you" from your dad. You know what I mean? I know that my dad tells me that now, but growing up, I didn't hear that. So then, for me as a gay man, especially, I started looking for this quote unquote love that we just mentioned and talked about from different people that can't give it to me the way I really needed it. But of course, I was going for anything they could provide because I didn't get this quote unquote love from a male figure in my life. So I think when it comes to men in community, with brothers, with your friends, with your peers, like don't be afraid to say, "Yo, I love you," or "You are loved," or "I got you," or whatever the case is. I think the affection, that there's intimacy in that, and I think that's something that is missing and something that could be enhanced. And so when I started working in this field, in the profession I work in, which I mentioned public health, I've been in it for 15 years. I do a lot of community work. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. And when I start having these conversations and just showing that you love somebody by giving them time and paying attention and valuing them, you see the difference in their drive to really do something for themselves. Because they say, wow, like I feel valuable. I feel like I'm not invisible. I feel worthy. And of course, that's something God is to do for them. But of course, if not, they need somebody that they have access to at the moment to show them like, yo, you are deserving of more. You are worth more, that you can get through this. I encourage you. I support you. I got your back. And sometimes those things are the things that we need to hear, especially from another man, if you are a man, from a Black man especially.
No, I get that. A few guests, when asked about the question, an event that had significant impact. Well, actually, it comes up in answers to different questions, but a few of the guests have referenced the Million Man March.
Yeah.
And what I take away from whatever each particular brother has shared, the gist of it is that there was this experience of Black men being united and free to acknowledge one another, to love one another, to embrace one another.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's what I hear you pointing to is that we don't have to have a single event in which everyone converges for Black men to do that with one another.
And ultimately, the most beautiful thing would be if we find ways to every day find ways to embrace or impact someone else's life by being there for somebody, or just simply just changing the way we look at things. I challenge myself to do something different every day. And then I also used to challenge when I start building myself socially. I start challenging myself to talk to 3 people that I don't know every day, to start a brief conversation so I can get comfortable with talking to people. But to get back on track, one thing I wanted to add is that, when it comes to Black men and comes to community, I know I mentioned it a couple times, but for me as a gay Black man, I tell you, it is very difficult sometimes going into communities with Black men because they don't want to. They don't want to be. If they are accepting of gay, they don't want their friends or peers to know that they are okay with you being gay, because they don't want to be associated with it, or they don't want to be assumed to be that.
Right.
If they, you know what I mean. And so I think a lot of times we have to battle our own brothers because of judgment, because of society, because of all that kind of stuff. And I think that can ultimately dishearten our unity as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in my mind, I was just kind of thinking about how the experiences, like being stopped by the police, police officer, when he stops you, does not know what your sexual preference is.
At
All
all.
they know is black man.
Exactly.
And I also do get how it's so funny. It's not funny, really. I just, that's one of those phrases I have. It's so funny.
I say that too. I say that.
But, I think about how in a way, and if I offend somebody, I'm sorry, sort of, not really. But it's kind of like high school. Like when you're in high school, there's certain groups that you're just like, oh, I can't be seen with you. And one of them might be somebody you'd love to hang out with. Like, y'all think alike about certain things,
Yeah.
but they part of that other group. You can't hang with that group because it makes you look bad, and your group is not going to let you in and all that.
You're so right. But you're right on point. Let me tell you, I have a best friend, a straight heterosexual male best friend. And he's been my best friend since high school, since the ninth grade. It's been over 20 years. I'm getting pretty old. It's been over 20 years that we've been best friends. I remember when we first became friends and he found that I was gay. At the time, he was like totally, I'm not saying he ain't into church now, but he was totally into church, all about Bible. So when he found out I was gay, he's like, listen, we can't be friends because, that God doesn't like God, God said and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, well, look, I was like, if you feel that, that perception of what somebody that hasn't met me, because at the time I didn't know God as I do now. I said, if you want to go ahead and go with what a book says, as opposed to what our friendship means, then cool. At least I had a great experience being your friend. And I remembered, because I was like, I'm not going to sit up here and beg you to be my friend. And I remember 2 days later, he grew up, not I'm not gonna say he grew up in 2 days, but 2 days later he came at me and said, listen, honestly, I was thinking about our friendship. And he's like, you have been there for me more than any of my other friends. He's like, you're one of the best friends I've ever had. And he said, like, so though I don't agree with what you are choosing for your life, I love you enough to be a friend, and I'm not going to let that anything come in between that. And so it's so interesting how at that age, mind you, we're young in high school at the time. At that age, he came to that realization, and we have been the best of friends since, to the point where like he knows everything about me. And he's the one that's pushing for me now to be like, yo, you need to date, you need to be happy. You deserve this. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But before he was like, I'm not in.
Right.
So it just shows you that if a black man is secure in himself, it doesn't matter what someone else around them is doing. If you love a person because they're a good person, do that. Don't let it interfere with your ability to just be whoever's around. It doesn't matter. It's about you being a good person to the good people. Period.
Say that.
And one of my other best friends and mentors, he's a pastor. And so whenever it comes to, now that I've gotten strengthened my relationship, my spiritual relationship with God, I feel that, I have someone I can just talk to that won't judge me, that will give me the real, like, if I don't understand something, I'm not the person that can quote scriptures, but I understand what they say. I can apply it. And so I love not feeling, I have people in my life now that I don't feel judged by. I can be my total, complete, authentic, genuine self at all times.
Greg, we're at the last question, and that is, I know. That's the one thing I love about these interviews is it's just like, oh man, bye friend.
Yes.
Okay. So now that you participated in this conversation, what did you get for yourself personally out of participating in this conversation?
I felt, wow. Thank you for that question. See, those are some real questions you asked today. What I got for myself is a reminder. I think a reminder in regards to how important it is there's a lot of different things, but a reminder for self to remain self. Second thing is a reminder to remember that a lot of people don't know how we feel, so we have to express that. Because sometimes we hold people to standards that they're not even aware of, and it's unfair to be disappointed by it if they didn't even know about it. So I would say when I was speaking about black men, it reminded me that there's so many black men in my life, my dad, all these other people that I don't really get a chance to be as open and transparent and direct with, to where they can feel they have permission to be as honest and direct with me as well. So I think to start those conversations that I know are not happening would be part of my responsibility. And so that's what I got from the conversation. And even before we get our Black women president that I know we're going to get one day, I think that it's important for me to really stand behind Black women and just tell the women that are possibly going to soon be president that I stand behind them and I support them. They don't have to be in a position for me to let them know that. So I think that this conversation reminded me of the importance of that as well. And then ultimately just remembering that it is important for us to come together, unity. That is what I got from this conversation. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to get it from this conversation.
Well, I acknowledge you for being an open heart.
Thank you.
Yeah. My heart, if you're into chakras and all that, when I envision my heart chakra, it feels more open after this conversation. And I think in part it's because you are so forthcoming, so transparent, so generous with your true self. And by being that, you invite others to do that in turn and to see themselves in the possibility of being more open, more free, and more transparent. So thank you for being that example.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I receive that. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to 365 Brothers. Certainly hope you enjoyed the episode. I encourage you to subscribe. Please leave a review. I want to know what you think. Also, if you know someone who would be a fantastic guest for 365 Brothers, please direct them to our website, 365brothers.com. You'll also find all the episodes there, 365brothers.com. And your support is welcome. And remember, to listen is to love.